During the 2016 election, Bernie Sanders certainly did get burned by the DNC and specifically the Center for American Progress. Now, in 2020, or as 2020 quickly approaches, Senator Sanders has shown that he is taking a different approach, and that different approach came out in the form of a letter to the Center for American Progress. So let me give you the details of what he wrote. This became public and I absolutely love it. He writes in the letter, "Last week you published an article on Think Progress criticizing me for my appearance and for the income I earned from writing a book. Then, a day later, you published a video that dishonestly attacked me for hypocrisy in my effort to address income inequality in America, a video that was excitedly discussed on many conservative websites." He continues to write, "Sadly, I'm not the only candidate in the 2020 field who has experienced personal attacks from your institution. My friend and colleague, Elizabeth Warren, was unfairly targeted by a November 2017 article on Think Progress that echoed Donald Trump's bad faith claims that she was being a hypocrite about her ancestry." So the letter continues, and I'll give you more in just a moment. But the point here is to go after an organization that is supposed to help Democrats running for president, but instead has on various occasions smeared people like Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, progressives. So I love that he's fighting back, because remember, in 2016, the thing that frustrated me was that he wanted to be the good guy and he wanted to just focus on the policies and the issues and he wouldn't hit back. But sometimes you have to, and I'm glad that he did that here.
He's hit back even gracefully. I mean, he hit back politely, I think, forcefully, but politely. And this is what I was talking about before. I mean, again, it's like a lot of this is clickbait related too. I mean, Bernie's good for clicks, and putting him down, putting Elizabeth Warren down, that can help drive clicks and internet traffic. I mean, honestly, there's a whole commercial aspect to this that we don't really touch on, but it is all part of that destroying our own. I mean, on the left, because that's where the real battle is. You understand, you can tire of the Trump thing because just Trump's the same drumbeat day after day, different subjects, but sort of the same drumbeat. Whereas you can get some of these, the friction on the left can be fun, and even fun for those on the left to go after, and Think Progress is one of them. I mean,
yeah, I don't know. I think maybe there's some truth to that, right? But I don't really think that's the driving force behind the attacks, because I think, especially when you read the articles that Bernie Sanders highlights in this letter, they do specifically go after progressive candidates, but more importantly, they'll even go after establishment Democrats if they support a progressive policy.
So you think they just want to eviscerate the progressives?
No, I think, look, let me just be clear right now, because this is my theory, right? Okay. And so I don't want anyone to think I'm trying to pass this off as fact. This is what I see happening and it's my perspective. But with that said, look, there is like this weird rally happening for Pete Buttigieg, right? And I really do see them, pushing him into like the mainstream and really highlighting how awesome he is. And look, there are great things about Buttigieg. There are some things that I really don't like about Buttigieg. His stance on college tuition, I do not agree with. He doesn't think that college tuition at public universities should be free. He also, in his own book, which just came out, has a portion where he talks about Harvard students, progressive Harvard students who were protesting in order to increase the pay for custodial workers. They were getting paid very little, and that's disgusting considering this is Harvard, right?
It is also mostly the plot of, I'm pretty sure, Good Will Hunting. He was a custodial student and he was brilliant. And so I'm just saying that I'm sorry, I interrupted your point.
No, it's okay. So the progressive students are protesting in order to get more pay for the custodial workers, and Buttigieg recounts how he reacted to it. And he referred to them as social justice warriors, and he didn't think for a second to take them seriously or maybe join in or maybe consider the fact that custodial workers were paid so little. So look, for me, that is not a good look, especially at a time when income inequality is such a big deal. This is my very long way of saying that I feel like this organization has an incentive to smear or belittle certain candidates while really supporting and increasing attention for other candidates.
Yeah, and just be honest about it.
Yeah.
A lot of their response is like, well, these are two completely separate entities. Think Progress is not really affiliated with the Center for American Progress. Yes, it is, but then maybe not. That's frustrating.
Yeah.
And I'm fine if you go after Bernie Sanders and you have a point.
Definitely.
I'm frustrated with these stories that go after Bernie Sanders and don't have a point. They are just completely disingenuous and saying, how dare you want to tax the rich while making money? Well, that actually seems like it's a completely good way to be. If you're rich and you're still standing by the principle of wanting to have millionaires and billionaires pay their fair share, what's wrong with that?
I mean, his statements on taxing the wealthy have been consistent, not just over the last 5 years, but for decades.
Yeah.
And so if he suddenly changed his policies because he has some money, well, then that's a completely different story. Then I think you're justified in writing a piece on that. But that is not what happened.
But they can't go after them for that. That's the thing. That's what frustrates them more than anything, is the lack of hypocrisy. And that's what makes them go, what's your angle, guys?
Yeah.
And I get why Bernie would be frustrated after it was proven that there were people within the Democratic Party that were trying to keep him from having a fair shot. And folks on CNN that would just echo it time and time again when it came down to like super delegates. They would just say, Hillary's got so many more. All those kinds of things. And they just don't want that to happen again, especially in the context of seeing so many candidates embrace those policies because they see, and it takes them by surprise. Oh my gosh, there's a pulse out there of Democratic support for big ideas. Yeah. How dare they? And then the last part is when they criticize the left for cannibalizing each other, and then there's Bernie going like, also you're mean to Elizabeth Warren, my competitor and colleague, who I'm also gonna stand up for.
He even mentioned Cory Booker in this letter because apparently Think Progress went after Cory Booker when he showed some support in legislation or policy that would make pharmaceutical drugs affordable. I mean, we all know how he voted when it came to pharmaceutical drugs, so I'm not trying to give him credit, but who knows, maybe that Think Progress piece persuaded him to follow the money instead of do what was right for the American people.
So just to review, you think this is the mainstream as manifested by Think Progress, right? And it's going after and trying to marginalize and find fault with the progressive, the more progressive voices.
Yes, and one of the reasons why I think that's happening is because it's already happened in the past. Right. You know, they certainly did that with the 2016 election. One final part of the letter that I want to read to you that I thought was powerful. Again, this is Bernie Sanders. He says, Center for American Progress leader Tanden repeatedly calls for unity while simultaneously maligning my staff and supporters and belittling progressive ideas. I worry that the corporate money cap, which is Center for American Progress, is receiving is inordinately and inappropriately influencing the role it is playing in the progressive movement.
I read a lot of Think Progress pieces and I think a lot of them are good.
Yeah.
In this situation, he has a point.
Yeah, I agree.
2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below, then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.